There are 5 levels to growing your marketing agency, and what you should focus on, and more importantly, what you should ignore at each level is different. And if you focus on the wrong things at the wrong time, you're gonna stay stuck. One thing that I've noticed throughout my career as I've gone from level to level is as I wanted to get to that next level, there's always 2 things that stand in my way. A skill that I need to develop and a character trait that I need to take on. And the longer that I ignored the thing that I needed to learn from a skill perspective and the person that I needed to become, the longer that I stayed stuck at that level. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 levels of growing your marketing agency through the lens of the skills that you need to acquire and the person that you need to become. And I'm also gonna walk through some mistakes that I made at every single level in hopes that you don't have to make the same. By the end, you should have a full picture of the skill stack and the character stack that you need to go through all 5 levels. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, my name is Alex Hartsuff. I grew my own marketing agency to $5 million a year before we sold it in 2023. And since then, we've worked with over 300 agency owners to help them go up market, charge more, and sign enterprise clients. Let's get into the video. So the first level is $0 to $10,000 a month. This is where everybody starts, obviously, and the goal is simple. Prove that people will pay you by getting your first 3 to 5 clients. The first skill that you have to learn is what I call initial acquisition. And this is different than consistent acquisition, which we'll talk about later. But initial acquisition is the skill of creating an offer, getting some leads, usually through some sort of manual process, and then learning how to have a sales call. For me, it was content and Instagram DMs. I would post content and then DM the people who engage with it, and a lot of times people who didn't engage with it. Because all you really need is an offer that will get someone a result, and then to get that offer in front of as many people as possible, as consistently as possible, and as cheap as possible. You don't need to worry about ad strategies or sales tactics, objection handling, software, any of that. You just need to put in the reps. That's all that matters at the first stage. The character trait that you have to develop at level 1 is discipline. Just the raw ability to decide that you're gonna start this, you're gonna start reaching out, you're gonna get rejected over and over and over again and keep pushing through. For a lot of people, this is one of the hardest levels, and they never even make it to the first 10K a month and never even make it to level 2 because they think all this rejection means, well, this sucks, I would just rather go get a job, that would be easier. And it would be easier, but if you keep pushing through, you'll get your first 3 to 5 clients and get to level 2. The biggest mistake that I made at level 1 was taking everything personally. Thinking that every rejection was about me or my offer, or my sales style, my sales tactics, my objection handling. It was none of those things. I was young and unproven, I didn't have any results, and looking back, I can't really blame people for not wanting to give me money. And it took me way too long to realize that none of that is personal, it's just part of the game, it's just part of starting out. Now on to level 2, $10,000 to $30,000 a month. So you've gotten your first few clients. Level 2 is all about being able to deliver results for them consistently. Now, what I'm not saying is that you need to focus 100% of your attention on client retention or building fancy SOPs. That's not it at all. Acquiring customers and clients is something that you're gonna have to do in perpetuity forever, no matter what level you're on. Because you don't stop doing what happened in the previous stages, you just add on. That's why we call them skill stacks or character stacks and not things that you swap out for one another. So the skill that you're gonna have to develop here is client management. And that doesn't mean just do good work and deliver results. It's setting expectations, it's having tough conversations, it's having the client understand what they need to do, what's required of them, how they need to show up, how you're gonna show up, and everything that goes into having a good client relationship. It's being willing to pick up the phone when things go poorly with a client and say, hey, here's what happened and here's what we're gonna do about it. And by the way, one thing to keep in mind is that your ability to retain your clients starts during your sales call and during your onboarding. The way that you set expectations through your sales process, through your sales call, through what happens before they get on the call, through your onboarding, through the documents that they go through, all of that is part of delivery. If you don't start managing expectations until 30 days into the engagement, you're gonna end up losing that client. If you are on level 2, one of the things I would recommend for you is this book called The Art of Client Services by Robert Solomon. It was given to me by a mentor of mine and really shaped how I think about the client experience, not just how to deliver great results and be a great marketing agency, but also how to have good relationships, because at the end of the day, your clients are people. The character trait that you have to develop here is ownership. You have to own the result no matter good or bad. If the client doesn't get you what you need fast enough, or they don't spend enough on their budget on ads, you can't blame them for that, even if it is their fault. In those circumstances, you still have to take ownership. You still have to look at yourself and say, well, what could I have done better? Could I have set better expectations so they knew when to get me stuff or how much they needed to spend in order to be successful with this? That level of accountability is what separates agencies that churn through clients month over month versus those that keep them for years on end. The biggest mistake that I made at level 2 was avoiding those tough conversations. Something would go wrong and I'd try to sweep it under the rug and pretend it didn't happen, or I try to fix it before they noticed, and that always blew up in my face. And this may sound crazy, but I had a time where somebody was getting poor results and I literally just stopped responding to the guy for 3 weeks. He was blowing me up and I just pretended like it wasn't happening, and eventually I owned up to it and had to have the conversation with him, and to his credit, he was cool about it. But if I had just accepted in the beginning that, hey, things are going poorly and I need to make a change and I need to own up to this to see how we can save it, I both could have had better results for the client and we could have salvaged that relationship. Now level 3, $30,000 a month to $83,000 a month, or getting to your first $1 million a year. Level 3 is where everything either clicks for you as an agency or it starts to break and you stall out, you spin your wheels and you burn out and you just kind of stick around here forever. See, getting to $30,000 or $50,000 a month, what you probably did was sign a bunch of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month clients. So you probably have 10 or 20 clients that you're dealing with. You probably hired a few people to help you with delivery. You're still doing all the sales. You still manage all the clients. You're still overseeing the work that's being done. And it feels like you're busier than you've ever been, but you don't really see yourself getting ahead at the same pace that you were previously. Every new client that you sign requires more overhead, more work, more stuff that has to get done. And your margins are getting thinner because you need more people to handle the volume of work that's coming in. If it's anything like my experience, you're constantly putting out fires all the time, and you went from doing all the work to managing people to do the work, but then you're still having to do some of the work because they're not good enough to do all the work for you, so now you're working 2 jobs. And like I said, this is where most agency owners end up plateauing, burning out, and sticking here forever, or just giving up and going and doing something different. So the first skill that you're going to have to acquire to get out of level 3 is what I call consistent acquisition. You're going to need a pipeline that doesn't depend on you hustling for every single lead. At level 1, it was manual, right? DMs or content or personal network, and that worked to get you here, but now you're going to need a system that you can turn on, which is typically going to be cold email or paid ads, that will continue to book you calls on your calendar, regardless of whether or not you make content. See, the thing that kills most agencies and keeps them in level 3 forever is this feast or famine cycle, right? You get a couple of clients, so you stop doing outreach because you're focused on delivery, and then your pipeline dries up, so you panic, then you start doing outreach again, and then you sign a couple of clients, and then you get busy doing delivery, and you stop doing outreach, and so this cycle repeats over and over. And that cycle will keep you trapped at 30 to 50K a month forever if you let it. So that's why you need a consistent pipeline system that keeps putting calls on the calendar without your effort. And consistent acquisition also means you need to have a repeatable, predictable sales process. Having something that goes to prospects before the call to filter and warm them up and educate them so your sales cycles don't stay super long. Running a structured discovery with a real framework. Having a pitch that's structured but feels personalized so the right person says yes. And a follow-up system that doesn't just let deals ghost and die. But here's something to keep in mind at level 3. While consistent acquisition is necessary, it's not sufficient. Because if all you do is just get better at signing more $3,000 a month clients, all you do is accelerate the problem that we talked about earlier. More clients with thinner margins, more fires, more headcount, more complexity, and the owner, you, working a whole lot more for not much more money. And what I've seen countless times is that the best way out is not more clients, it's fewer, better clients. That single decision is what completely changed the trajectory of my entire agency. I was charging $3,000 to $3,500 a month like everybody else, but then I took the service that we sold at the time, which was paid ads and ad creative, and I repositioned it around the outcome that we provided instead of the deliverables. I changed who I was talking to and how I framed that problem. Instead of selling to small businesses with small problems, I started selling the same thing to bigger clients with bigger problems so that the same work would get a bigger outcome, and I started charging $10,000 a month for it. Just think about the math. Let's say you want to get to $83K a month, your first $1 million year. Let's say you take the first path and you keep signing these $3,000 a month clients. Well, to get to $83,000 a month, you're going to need 27 clients. You're going to need 8 to 12, maybe even 15 people to try to manage all these things. You're going to need lots of SOPs. You're going to have constant communication because there's so many clients to manage. Your overhead keeps growing, which means your margins keep shrinking. Or you can take the enterprise client path and sign people who are paying you $10,000 or $15,000 a month. You need 5 to 8 or 9 clients, which you can manage with 2 or 4 people. So you got the same revenue, but you've got way less management, way less overhead, and way less chaos. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize is it's not that it just makes level 3 easier, it makes all the levels after it significantly simpler as well. The decision that you make at level 3 cascades into what happens for the rest of the life of your agency. And so the character trait that you're going to need to develop at level 3 to continue to get to level 4 is consistency. You can't rely on motivation or hustle. You've got to be consistent. You've got to show up every day if you don't want to, especially when you don't want to, and continue to push that ball forward. The pipeline work is boring. Following up with people who haven't responded to you in 6 months is boring and is a huge hit to your ego. Restructuring your offer and going after higher prices is difficult, and you're going to want to drop back down. But the person who stays consistent and sticks with it for 6 months in a row is the person who gets to level 4. And the biggest mistake that I made in level 3 was taking way too long to change. See, I ran with small clients all the way up past $100,000 a month, so I took this all the way into level 4, specifically $113,000 in November of 2021. And we had so much going on at that time that it was very difficult for me to make that transition. I was trying to serve all of these smaller clients because they were already on our books while bringing in these bigger clients, but the smaller clients ate up all the time and the margin that we got from the bigger clients. It was just so much to deal with, so the transition took significantly longer than it should have. These days in my consulting business, I work with a lot of people who come in at level 3 and are looking to get to level 4. You know, it took me 2 years to get there, but I work with somebody like Adam Taylor who went from 50K a month to 180K a month in 6 months. Somebody like Evan did it in 90 days. They went from 40K to 100K a month. I had a guy, his name's Sebastian, sent me a testimonial video literally today. He's finishing up his program time in 3 days, and he came in at $30,000 a month, and now he's at 85K in a matter of 6 months. All 3 of these guys made this transition early, so they went from level 3 to level 4 significantly faster than I was able to. By the way, if you're at level 3 and you want to make this transition, like I said, we help people do this all day, every day. So go into the description. There's a link. You can book a call with me directly. I'll actually talk to you. It's not some setter or some closer, and I'll see if we can help you make this transition. Now, level 4, $83,000 to $250,000 a month. So from $1 million a year to $3 million a year. At level 4, your job is to build the machine. So a lot of agency owners, myself included, really struggle when they get to this level because they're doing something in a place they've never operated from before. You've always been a doer, but now you have to find, hire, and develop other people into doers. For sales, it's time for you to hire your first salesperson. And this doesn't mean hire your salesperson and then disappear and you never take a sales call again, but it's working in tandem with them until they're good enough to be able to replace you. You should be training them on being able to replace you, which looks like working them through your entire process, your discovery script, your pitch deck, your template, all of the things that you use to close deals up at this point, or at least you should be. Have them listen to your recorded calls over and over and over again. And I'm not going to walk through on YouTube my entire how to train a closer section here in my program, but just know that the number one thing that you need to hire for is hunger. You can teach skills, you can teach process, but you cannot teach salespeople how to be hungry. And that is the single most important thing for a salesperson, coming from a salesperson. And one other thing to keep in mind is you have to be willing to fire quickly. I give salespeople 30 days. If you haven't closed a deal in 30 days, you're out. I can't tell you how many times that I've let somebody hang on too long because I thought, oh, I can fix them. Oh, I thought I can make you better, but you just can't. Either they kill or they don't. Then for delivery, you need to build pods. Pods are like a mini agency inside of your agency, all built to handle a particular number of clients. They usually have a team lead who in our case was always the account manager, then underneath them, specialists who handle the delivery. So strategists, copywriters, designers, media buyers, whatever you do. Each pod handles an individual number of clients, and your job becomes managing the pod leader as opposed to managing the people who are doing the delivery, which is how you go from managing 12 people to managing 2 or 3 people. And I know this may sound simple, but you have to keep the roles clear. Account managers manage accounts, strategists strategize, coordinators core, media buyers buy media. But I've seen so many times with the agencies that we work with that they start to cross these roles over. So things get really messy because no one has accountability because no one's assigned to one single thing. And while hiring is important, hiring is only half the battle. You got to get them in, but then you got to train them on what you do. You have to take what's been in your head this whole time and turn it into a repeatable process that someone else can follow. And this means SOPs become a big focus, but that doesn't mean waste a ton of time like I did trying to make fancy branded SOPs. It doesn't matter. Just record yourself doing something on Loom, take the transcript, throw it into Claude, get it to make a step-by-step SOP, just ask it for that, and that's good enough to start. Whenever you find yourself doing something, the question you have to ask yourself is not, how do I get this done? It's, should I be doing this? And if not, who should be doing this and how can I train them? You're still the one training everybody. You're still the one running the pod meetings. You're still the one overseeing how the work gets done, but you're not doing the work. So you take the role of the player coach. So the skill that you have to acquire here is hiring and training. It's all about finding the right people, getting them up to speed, and then building a system that they can follow where work gets done well without your hands on the keyboard. It's a completely different skill set than being able to do the work yourself, which is why so many agency owners struggle with it, myself included. And so the character trait that you have to develop is acceptance. You're going to have to accept that other people are not going to be as good as you at doing the work, and that's okay. If someone else can do the work 80% as well as you, that's fine. If they can close 80% as many of the deals as you would have closed, that's okay. You have to be willing to give up that exchange of revenue and client results because 80% of them doing something without you is better than 100% of you having to do every single thing and then not being able to do the big things that matter and actually drive the agency, the things that only you can do. And that was my biggest mistake, being unwilling to actually take the time to train the people. If someone would send me something that I knew wasn't good enough or needed a revision, instead of taking the time to sit down with them and actually work through, here's how you do it the right way, I would just fix it. And while that's easier in the short term because it's way faster for me to just do it, in the long term, it just keeps me trapped. Now we're at level 5. This is going from 3 million to 10 million a year. And we sold our agency at $5 million a year, so I can only really speak up to 5 million a year. But this was the direction our agency was headed. We could have continued down this road. And the people who acquired us, this is the direction that they went. At level 4, you took your hands off the work. At level 5, you take your hands off the management. Up until now, you've still been running the show, right? You're still hiring the people, training them, overseeing the pods and delivery, overseeing the sales process. And while you may not be doing all the work, the business still depends on your brain to run. And that's what has to change. At level 4, you were hiring doers, salespeople, account managers, specialists. You were hiring people to execute tasks. tasks. But at level 5, you have to hire leaders, people who can do the job that you were doing at level 4, managing, training, and hiring. You hire people to make decisions. You're going to need a sales manager to run the sales team, people who can hire them, train them, and hold them accountable. You need an operations manager who can oversee the pods to track profitability, make sure they're hitting their timelines, making sure that people are getting the work that they're supposed to be getting in a manner that is representative of who you are as an agency. Oftentimes you need an HR person or a finance person because you shouldn't be the one who's doing all of those things. This is also where you start to systemize the things that depended on you previously in the business. At level 4, you were training the new hires. At level 5, you need a training system, documented processes, onboarding, ramp up, these things that can get people in and train them up without you. At level 4, you were the one who built the teams, hired the people, decided who, when, and how to hire. But at level 5, you need a hiring pipeline with clear criteria and interview process so leaders can build teams without you. Your job is no longer to look at the business on a task level, but at a dashboard level. You're looking at profitability per pod, churn rate, pipeline numbers, and the question shifts from, am I managing my people well, to, can the business operate without me in the building? And once again, the decision that you made at level 3 is going to pay dividends here. If you win enterprise, you're building this leadership layer over a lean operation. If you stay at high volume small clients, you've got a very complex organization that you're going to have to build this around. And so your role at level 5 is the C-suite. It's vision, it's strategy, it's big picture decision making. You shouldn't be worried about, did this person's email get sent, or did our marketing team do this thing? Your job is to figure out, are we in the right markets? Are we charging the right amount of money? What are the things that we need to be doing and hiring for now so in the next 12 months we hit whatever goals we have? So the skill is leadership and systems. It's not just about hiring leaders, but it's about building the systems and the culture that allow those leaders to operate without you. It's making the agency run like an agency, not just an extension of you. And the character trait that you have to develop is trust. At level 4, it was accepting 80% is okay. At level 5, it's trusting that the leadership team can run this entire thing without you being present. The shift is from operator to owner. That can be terrifying because this thing is your baby, right? You grew it from sending Instagram DMs, and now you have to trust that other people can carry that. And that's where I messed up a lot because I still saw this thing as my baby. I remember sitting around for 4 hours a day, sending Instagram DMs trying to grow this thing. And so now when decisions were being made, I always felt like I had to put my input in. And there were a lot of times where they decided that they were not going to go with the direction that I wanted to go. And thankfully they didn't go the way that I wanted to go because the way they wanted to go was right. So you have to trust that you've hired the right people and put them in the right seats on the bus so that way you can get wherever you're trying to go. I had to learn to trust the people around me. So for your skill stack are the things that you need to learn in order. It's initial acquisition, it's client management, it's consistent acquisition, it's hiring and training, and then it's leadership and systems. Then for your character stacker, who you need to become, it's someone who's disciplined, someone who takes ownership, someone who's consistent, someone who is accepting, and someone who can trust. And remember, these are stacks, they're not things you graduate from. You're still going to need discipline at level 3. You're still going to need ownership at level 5. You're going to carry all of them. Each one adds, and that's what makes this difficult because every level you go, the bar raises higher and you add more weight to that bar. But the single biggest thing I want you to take away from this video, that decision in level 3 of whether you're going to keep going with more clients or go after better clients charging more is the most important decision you can make in your agency. That decision will determine how hard levels 4 and 5 are, because charging more doesn't just make you more money, it makes the agency simpler to build, simpler to manage, and simpler to scale. That one shift changed the entire trajectory of my agency. And if you're somebody watching this video and you're on level 3 and you're trying to get to level 4, you're on level 4, you're trying to get to level 5, or you're on level 5 and you want to install consistent enterprise acquisition into your agency, what I would invite you to do is go below this video, go into the description, book a call with me. If it makes sense, if I think we can help you, I'll walk you through what we can do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.